Hello. In this video, I wanted to talk about lacking drawing and rendering skills. So, there are things that I am pretty confident in, and there are things I'm not confident in drawing. My biggest worry for me right now is my kind of lack of ability to draw from actual real life, things that I'm looking at in person rather than from an image. And it's always good to admit that you lack certain skills because that means there's room for improvement. You'll never be perfect at anything, but you can be really good at it, you know? So it can be very discouraging, when you see other people who have made it, or they appear as if they made it. I found it, it's really hard to understand how they even got to that point. Now, I think to a large extent, it's something that can be done with a lot of practice, but not everyone has the time. I mean, they do have the time, I hope, but it's kind of like a balancing game. So you have to keep in your mind that it is possible, even though you can't do it now. It's kind of like believing the impossible. And it all has to do with a healthy balance of, if I could remember how to draw a scale. I can't remember how to draw a scale. It all has to do with a healthy balance of uh, hard actual drawing, which I would say applying drawing, which is like the actual act of drawing or trying to do the construction of something, compared to the theory. It's a balancing game. I have to say that if you were going to weight in any way, you would want to put you would probably want to put, I would say, 80 to 90% of your time on the actual applying it. That is how I would kind of handle it. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of the initial drawing you do during the start, all it matters is that you actually draw. I think it's even better if you are trying to look for your mistakes, you're trying to correct it. But I think that there's a certain level of muscle memory you have to gain, and however you can do that through drawing is the important thing initially. So hear me out. Theory, I'm going to say 10%. Now, it's important for the theory to know how to structure your education. So you need the theory because it helps give you an understanding, even though you may not be able to apply everything. And that's kind of like the really tricky thing, because not being able to apply what you just read, it's really hard for your brain to consider that worthwhile, to actually commit to keeping in your head and not throwing it out the window. Because when you hear things like perspective, proportions, light, shadow, composition, there are a million terms in drawing, rendering, making art. Don't even get me started on color and all of that, because that's a whole art in itself. And I'm just trying to talk about drawing here. And there's a lot of other ways you can do with it. Like, you could use oil paints, you could use watercolor, but I'm just talking about drawing in this instance, because I think that is the most important thing before you try to put the other stuff on it. Because a lot of the other things all have to do with it being more cosmetic. Now, I think there is an art to all of those. I don't mean to disregard the other mediums, but you need to have an understanding how to actually construct things in 3D space. So, as I was going on before, the theory is important, I would say. Well, you know what? I'm going to have to make this smaller. The theory is important. I'm not going to disregard that. You do need to learn it, and I think to a certain extent, unless you have a photographic memory, which I don't, you're gonna have to. You'll probably hear things the same time in different ways. Now, I think the benefit to that is as you grow your muscle memory, you'll start to understand it more, because it requires a lot of experience to actually get to a point of confidence. Like, I found that, I was starting to learn to draw in about 2019. I tried 2018, but I had to stop. 2019, I've been committing to it every day. There are things that I'm a lot better at drawing than other things, and I've been always trying to do the 90-10. I did have some times when I kind of dipped, and I was only probably committing about an hour to 2 hours a day. Now I try to commit a lot more when I can, especially on the weekends. So I think the reason why I have confidence to commit to this is because I originally learned programming. And yes, I did go to a university for that, but I found that I mostly taught myself when it came to the overwhelming majority of the information. And one of the first articles that I read on this was an article called, originally it was called, Teach Yourself Programming in 10 Years. For some reason, I thought it was like something else, like, there it is, 21 days. And this is a joke, by the way. So that, you know, like, imagine picking up a book and it would say, learn how to draw in a week, or learn how to draw in 2 weeks, or 21 days, or a month, or 2 months. The whole problem with that is, things like those are meant to get your attention. Oops. They're meant to get your attention, and it can help you. But the problem is, the people who write those books have a lot of bias in the event they already know how to draw. And they're trying to sum up all of their knowledge and try to give it off to someone who may not really know how to do it. Oh, this article, by the way, I do recommend you read it. It's by Peter Norvig. Yeah, there. Okay. I can't remember if he was the same one that made a drawing about an elephant. And they were talking about how do you eat an elephant. Not that I would eat an elephant, but basically one bite at a time. And, it's kind of going all back to this thing takes a long time, and you have to, like, commit yourself for a long period of time. And I feel like, to a certain extent, we live in a very fast-paced society, and I think you have to handle drawing and rendering in a very appropriate way of dedicating a lot of time and knowledge to it. And the problem is, a lot of people, like, I feel like a lot of our attention spans are very shot. I mean, maybe not all of us. I think I've regained mine over time, but I have seen that many things, marketing specifically, everything's trying to grab your attention so they could sell you something. I mean, heck, if you look at all the books, if you read this article, you'll talk about all the books that, teach you all these languages. And I have to say, before I read this article, I actually had a few of these books, and I want to say I read a whole book on C++, and I learned nothing. And could you guess why I learned nothing? Well, I learned nothing because I was probably like 100% theory, probably like 95% theory. I was pretty much 95% theory, and the other 5% was me actually typing it on my computer. The weird thing about C++, I somehow crashed my computer multiple times, and for some reason it never really behaved the same after I did that. That's a tangent. But the point I'm trying to say here is that as I, tried to learn programming again and again and again, I felt like I had to just relearn it again. Every programming language had a very similar set of principles. And they had things like variables, arrays. They're very simple concepts, but a lot of the programming, a lot of the entire knowledge of it in the entirety is to all show how you could build complex things out of simple parts, and pretty much how the human factor is the most difficult factor. So when I say the human factor, I would equivalent that to drawing as the muscle memory. Maybe that's even a bad term. to compare it to. But the point I'm trying to say here is that programming takes a really long time to learn. And I feel like I didn't gain a confidence with programming until about late 2020. And I've been programming since 2016. I did it in university. I did it every summer. I kind of like dedicated my full self to it. Very, very weird. I've delved into so many different languages, and I feel like I didn't really. I felt like a lot of it was just a bunch of abandoned projects, me kind of going around with a bunch of different things. I feel like I wasn't really making anything worthwhile, but I think that that's kind of the process. Like when you're learning to draw, you're going to make a bunch of stuff that isn't worthwhile to show to others or sell. Uh, it could be worthwhile to show to others to get feedback. Because the one thing I will say, I never had a mentor when it came to programming, but I had you know, TAs and professors when it came to college, and they were able to clearly see if there were issues with it. Well, code's a lot different because either it runs or it doesn't, or it runs and it kind of runs with bugs, my non-favorite bugs. So, but the point I'm trying to say here is that I had so much discouragement. I was so discouraged because like when I did learn C++ at the end of the summer when I had to go back to school and learn different stuff, I feel like I learned nothing because I just did all theory. I really didn't try building any programs, and I think that kind of I think it taught me something. I think it was good for me to do that because it taught me that I needed to go more with muscle memory. So further down the line, I want to say about 2020, I got in my head that I wanted to make a game engine, and I ended up going through with it, and a 2D game engine, and I spent so much time. I kind of used interesting algorithms to accomplish it. I probably won't show it because, well, it was never really, it was finished, but there was always something to add to it. And you can kind of compare that with drawing in a sense in which you're always, if you're making stuff all the time, you're eventually going to hit a point in which you want to, you need to show it to others to really grow. And I think with that specific project, I really didn't see how to take it further. I think I accomplished what I wanted to with it, and I was like, it was very weird. I just didn't know where I was going with it. And I think like when it comes to drawing, you're gonna have those moments when you don't know where you're going, but you need to know that all of that is getting in your head for the thing that you can truly make. And and it's gonna sound funny when I say this. I'm gonna close this out. As I went, it wasn't until I decided to make a slideshow application, and I know I talk about this application all the time. Uh, I guess you could say it was a big accumulation of my knowledge. I would show you the first one. I mean, it's on my website, and I have a web page on it. But I made this application called Drawsum 2. And the thing about it is, this is like my, would the right word be magnum opus? Or masterpiece? This was my masterpiece, I would say, when it comes to programming. Because it was an accumulation of all of my knowledge. Now, when I say that, programming doesn't really stand on its own, much like a painting, having a drawing is much like a pre-step. Like, I mean, you can have finalized drawing if that's the way you want to go, just like there are programmers who have command line tools with how they do it. But with this, I had to combine logic and user interface and usability to make something that wasn't only usable to myself but to others. And this it took pretty much like all of the knowledge that I had when it came to human design, programming, logic, working with different operating systems, all of that. This is like my painting, I would say. And I think that the fact that I made this, or these programs in general, really kind of show how you get further along with drawing. So as you apply more drawing, more things will make sense. Much like how I had to program a bunch of various things in pretty much a code-only environment until I could eventually understand, okay, well, I have to do this and this and this. And much like a full oil painting requires a lot of time, a lot of design decisions, a lot of, well, human decisions overall, something like this requires a lot of that as well. And it all has to do with actually applying the knowledge, not just reading about it. If I did nothing but read books on programming and never actually applying my knowledge, if I didn't actually have something I wanted to make, I wouldn't pretty much be here where I'm at now. Now I know I'm really tooting my own horn when it comes to this, and if anything, it was a learning project. But this application really helps practice gesture drawing. And I know it sounds weird, but the reason why I like it is because of the mapping. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I talked enough about this. But the point I'm trying to say here is that you really have to commit, do it for long periods of time. You have to admit you're going to, or you're going to have to admit that you're going to draw a lot of crap that you're never going to want to show to anyone, and you don't have to, and you could burn it for all you want. But a big part of the process is applying stuff and doing a little learning as well. Well, not a little learning, but you have to do a lot. If I did a little learning for this, it would be in a much worse state. But yeah, always be learning. Another tip is, if you are, like what I personally do is, if I'm in a position in which I could be drawing, I will draw. But if I'm in a position in which I can't be drawing, like if I'm out and about and I have the opportunity to read something, that's when I would do it, and that's what I would recommend to you. But find a healthy balance for yourself. You may disagree with what I say. You may want to maybe even do a little more theory. Maybe you may not even know. Like maybe you just find a balance of 50-50 and it works for you. Well, if you find a balance of like 50-50 of that and that works for you, I would highly recommend that you do a lot more drawing instead. Like you put more of the weight on drawing. That's what I would highly recommend. And know that you can get there. And I'm pretty confident that I know that I could advance and get better, mostly because I feel like I reached a little bit of a level of mastery when it came to programming. I mean, I can't call myself a master of programming. There are always things that I don't know. The scope of the field is too large, but I will say when it comes to programming, I know something, and when it comes to drawing, I do know a few things as well, and I know that it's just a matter of time until I'll have that very strong confidence when it comes to drawing. So, thanks for listening to me ramble on about this. I hope it inspires you, considering how it seems like we live in a world that is not too inspiring and encouraging of art skills. I hate to say, I mean, it is always very dangerous trying to go into art and trying to make money from it. No one really likes to talk about that. I'm not saying the purpose of art is to make money in any way, but I'm saying for those of you out there who want to do that for that purpose, it can be a very difficult thing that may require anywhere from 10 to 15 years of experience before you may even make $1. But just know that you can get there with a lot of practice, and just also be wary and try to find your mistakes if you're making them, and you may have to reach out to other people to help or to get help and feedback on your stuff. So yeah, if you have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments, or you could email me if you would rather not leave it in the comments. If you like the video, please like it. If you like my channel, please subscribe. Thanks for listening. Bye.